So, hello. I just thought I would do an update video. I finally planted most of my stuff today. I might be too early. It's still getting down to 5 tonight, so I have so many tomatoes. I'm just kind of hoping for the best. I have lots in the backyard as well, so planted out all my tomatoes today. Out here is mostly like cherry tomatoes. This one's called a Berry's Crazy Cherry. And I put lettuce all in this bed, super tiny still. I just have it covered because the birds will eat it all. The apple. This is going to be a espalier to the wires, which means you're kind of training it in 2D. I won't let it ever get bigger than the fence. It's dwarf apple. It's waking up. More strawberries and lettuce. I also planted soybeans in here. I kind of interplant, so lettuce and soybeans, so the lettuce will come out as the soybeans get bigger. All along here I did soybeans. And then it's a good nitrogen fixer as well. Another apple tree, espaliered. Tomatoes. I put a zucchini there. We'll see. I have no good luck with zucchini, so we'll see how it does. That tomato's looking a little sad. It's probably my wimpiest tomato I planted. And it's called Atomic Grape Tomato. We'll see how it does, I guess. From wild boar seeds. And I got some speedwell, Veronica speedwell coming up. And tulips. The grapes are, yep, showing some signs of life. There's a bud right there that'll turn into a leaf right away. Tulips look good. So this netting I made for the cabbage moths to keep them out, but I ended up getting flea beetles really bad, and they can get in there. So I don't know how they are getting in there, but they ate a bunch of my cabbage and kale completely. So I pulled everything out. I put some marigolds in there, and I'm just waiting a bit because the adult life cycle of the flea beetle soon they'll go lay their eggs and go away, and then their larvae will work on the roots of the plants, but apparently it doesn't do as much damage. So I bought some more cabbage plants, and I'll try planting in a little bit. Over here we've got a gooseberry. I planted some squash in here, and I actually planted, I don't know, like some 8 or 10 corn. We'll see what happens. It's an experiment. Kind of, but not really. 3 sisters because there's no beans. But I did put a pumpkin there and a squash on the other side of where I planted the corn. And then these are all cherry tomatoes. Sugary hybrid, sweet 100s, chocolate sprinkles, and what's this one here? This one looks pretty good. Candyland currant tomato. And there's another, I think that's like a sunshine squash or something, hybrid. The plum tree has finally got leaves. Slowly. This plum is flowering for the first time. This is just a Canadian plum. It's our pollinator plum. Most plums, actually all plums, are not self-fertile, so you need a pollinator, usually a Prunus nigra, or a Canadian plum, or an American plum. And this is a Canadian plum, so we're just kind of waiting on the other plum to flower. So maybe next year. We might get one, because the Nanking cherry is flowering at the same time, so maybe a bee will pollinate these and we can try Canadian plum this year. We've got tarragon, French tarragon, that came back this year from last year. It's not supposed to be perennial, but it seems to do well here. It seems to come back for me. This grape's not awake yet. This one was kind of later to wake up than the other one last year. My aronia bush is starting to leaf out. More tomatoes. Cherries leafing out. I'm not sure if we'll get, I don't see any flowers yet, so maybe next year. Who knows, hey? I think I put some squash in here, can't remember. And basically anywhere there's a border, I planted bean seeds. So tons and tons of beans because they're nitrogen fixers and they give us a harvest, and the bush beans don't take up much room, so they're pretty much everywhere in here, which you'll see in a little while. My asparagus bed, we just harvested. Me and Reagan were eating it fresh tonight because it's interesting if you've never tried a fresh asparagus, because by the time you get them in the store, all their sugars have been turned to starch. So when you first try them right from the ground, it's like sweet and juicy. It's not what you would expect, not what you're used to anyways, because the store ones are not. They're usually fibrous and you have to cook them, right? So it's kind of neat. Another tomato. We're slowly getting our rock border done. Brandon's done lots and lots of loads of rocks for me, which I appreciate. My daughter has decided now that it's like our pastime. We go pick rocks and see who can get the best rocks, so she usually wins. Those are sorrel, Egyptian walking beans, and some red tulips. And then back there are another allium that will flower, just an ornamental one. And then I stuck a tomato in there because why not? It's a south-facing wall that's nice and warm. It'll probably do well there. I think that's just a currant tomato. And the elderberries are awake. This little cherry I planted in the backyard. It looks like it's doing okay. Strawberries here are doing awesome. Some of them are even flowering. The hazelnut is awake. The black cap raspberries are starting to leaf out. Garlic is a little dry. We haven't had any rain here, so a lot of the tips are brown. I've been kind of watering, but not successfully all the time. My goji berry is starting to show a little life, but you probably can't see because it's super small still. There's some hostas and some bleeding hearts. Yeah, more gooseberries here. These were just put in last year, so there's a couple flowers on them. We'll get to taste them this year. One more tomato. This cherry just looks like leaves, so maybe next year for flowers. And haskaps are doing awesome. We'll have lots of haskaps from these guys. So yeah, starting to come more awake. There's some perennials poking up. There's some asters and stuff. Some more sedum ground covers. I put clover in here too as a nitrogen fixer, and then also it's forage for the bees, and trying to keep the grass out of here, which is tough. So I've got to find some other things that I can put against this border to discourage the grass. We'll see. I'm not sure what I'll use for that yet. It has to be something that's not so invasive that it'll go into my neighbor's yard. Yeah. So that's kind of the food forest in the front yard. There's also like the flower border in the front that's kind of coming alive. I didn't show you that, but the video's getting kind of long, so there's lots of stuff greening up out there. I'll show you it when it's more interesting because it's just mostly green right now. So yeah, and then other than that, I've had to water because it's been super dry, no rain. And the fishes are in their little house, and they're my fertilizer. They make nitrogen fertilizer that I use on my plants. So I keep the mosquitoes away, and I've got a water source for the birds and the bees. So thanks for watching.